Boom! And we are live. Progress Realty Partners, what say you? Live from our broadcast studio here in Tinton Falls, New Jersey, aka our office. This
That's
is what
right.
say you. We get questions every week, guys, from investors throughout the country. Commercial real estate investing related, and we try to give answers and our opinions to those questions. And as always, my name is Dan Salonis.
My name also hasn't changed, and it's not Dan Salonis, but it's Adam Dickert.
And we are the co-principals of Progress Realty Partners, guys. And we're going to get right into this thing because everybody's busy and nobody wants to wait. So I know we got a question. Adam, 2 for you, 2 for me. Let me just see here real quick. All right. Okay. So, Adam, question number 1, and this one is Andrew from Rhode Island. He wants to know, or he says, I'm buying my first commercial property. What are some of the first things you recommend I do when my due diligence period starts? So, Adam, what say you?
What say me is, Andrew, first of all, congratulations. Big step. Maybe you came from the multifamily world before, but commercial is a whole new animal.
Hell yeah.
First and foremost, in our due diligence, this is our favorite time of the entire deal cycle. Go do a site visit first and foremost. On paper, might look great. On paper, numbers might pan out. You might think the density is good. The traffic's great. Go see the property. It might be a shithole in person and you have no idea. Go check it out. Make sure you want to start spending time and money on the asset and going forward through the process. After the site visit, everything checks out great. Get your third-party reports moving. Your phase 1. Check. Make sure there's no sort of contamination or anything. Get a PCA, a property condition assessment. Have a professional engineer go out there, check the roof, check the structure, check the plumbing, check the asset. Make sure there's no major faults with the actual asset that you're buying. Get an appraisal done. Are you paying $10 million for this thing and it's only worth $7? That's a red flag, right? And do tenant interviews. Tenant interviews are huge. Not really sure what the tenants are, maybe more mom and pops, but talk to the tenants. You don't want to buy this thing and assume that people are staying in 5-6 years. When you talk to them and immediately they say, I hate this place. I hate the landlord. My business is not doing great. Do tenant interviews. I would even put that right after site visit or even before site visit. Site visit and tenant interviews are really probably the most crucial outside of the professional third-party reports.
Yeah, I'd agree. Sorry, I'm just getting texts from investors right now, actually. Yeah, I mean, I would, like you said, I think the first thing is the site visit, right? Get a good feel for the property, the way the traffic flows, by the property. I don't know that you're going to get 10 interviews before you do a site visit. A lot of times, sellers will push back on tenant interviews, but those are red flags in general too.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many deals we look at where this landlord, the seller's like, oh, we don't want you to talk to the tenants. Why not?
Yeah, immediately like pushback.
Yeah, like what are you hiding, right? And you can always find areas to improve, if they are doing well, of what you can do better than the seller and the previous ownership group.
Right.
So, yeah, good answer.
Yeah.
So I know we got another question, and Kim's actually helping us out virtually. Kim is under the weather today. And what we got?
Boom. All right.
There we go.
Corey from South Carolina. Mr. Daniel, as a passive investor, what should Corey look out for when reviewing someone else's deal?
That's a good question.
Help this man out. Help this man. Great question, Corey. There's a lot of groups out there, a lot of really good groups, a lot of guys who know what they're doing and a lot of guys who don't know what they're doing. So you got to be careful in terms of what you look at and, kind of weed through the marketing and actually look at the deal. But some of the things I would personally look at is, A, who's the sponsor, right? What is their experience? What do they bring to the table? That is going to be something that you can lean on from an experience standpoint, from a intellectual capital standpoint, from an actual capital standpoint. But also, like, one of the things I always tell guys is anyone can project returns and do this.
And yeah, numbers don't lie, but what can be easily manipulated is the underwriting that gets to those numbers. So really look at, what are they projecting in terms of, expense increases, rental increases, what assumptions are they making? One of the biggest things, and this really plays into, the IRR, the internal rate of return, what's their exit cap rate? Are they, if they're buying a stabilized, multifamily deal that's not a value add, class A, whatever the case, if they're buying it at a 4.5 cap and their exit cap is a 4, like we always like to be conservative. I would rather see a group project a higher exit cap rate than what they're initially buying it, unless it's a pure value add deal. But really, like, look at those numbers and their assumptions they're making, and then look through the PPM. Really understand, and that's the private placement memorandum. Really understand what the profit share split is, right? What fees are they charging? Are they charging every fee under the sun? Is it, don't be surprised by anything. You want to make sure it all makes sense. And, sponsors have to get paid and compensated for their work, of course. But like a bulk of their money that they're making shouldn't be coming just from the fees. A lot of it should be tied to the performance. So those are some of the things I would say. But just make sure who they are. They're good human beings. Get some referrals. And you should be in good shape as long as you kind of cover all those areas.
Yeah. Just to quickly add on that, I mean, you mentioned the sponsor, right? Anybody can buy real estate. It's not rocket science, the physical act of paying money for a piece of real estate, but knowing how the sponsor manages it, runs the property, and runs all the investor relation type stuff. That's really the crux of it. So that's a great point.
You know what I heard somebody say once, or I saw it maybe on here on LinkedIn, and I love this. I'm totally stealing this. Buying real estate is like having a kid, right? Managing real estate is like raising a child. So anybody can have a kid, but who is actually good at being a parent and actually raising a child? Those are two different things, and I think that's a great kind of analogy for just real estate in general.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, it's a big one.
Oh my God!
Holy cow! We gotta put our heads up here. Put our heads up here. All right, John from Tennessee, Adam. This one's for you.
Oh my
and
God!
We'll hide it so we can see ourselves. What type of financial modeling and analysis do you perform when considering the purchase of a property? I currently perform pro forma cap rate, net present value, internal rate of return, cash on cash multiple, and debt service coverage ratio. Are there any others I should perform? Let me hide that. Whew.
I'm actually glad it pops up like that so I can read it. Usually I'm like trying to remember what the heck the question is.
That is cool.
That is a long paragraph of a question.
I hope you got good memory.
Yeah, we're great memory. But John, that is a good question from Tennessee. You kind of touched upon a lot of the more normal, I would say, maybe not necessarily basic, but really the staples of the return metrics, right? Cash on cash, your IRR, which I don't really think you mentioned is kind of related to your NPV, your net present value. Just two things really come to mind. Now, you mentioned exit pro forma cap. Right. Along with that, I would also include equity multiple. Kind of goes hands in hand. It kind of helps you figure out what your true multiple on your money is. You put in $100,000. Are you making $300,000 total throughout the entire lifespan of the deal, or are you making $150,000? Equity multiple is a pretty good staple that doesn't take into consideration the time of the deal span, which is depending on what your actual model is and what your plan is. Some of those metrics might not even really come into play. But another one that you mentioned was a little debt related. Where is? Oh, it's over here on the side somewhere. Debt service coverage ratio, DSCR. Great question. But what lenders are actually looking for now is even debt yield. So it's very simply what your NOI is divided by what your debt service is. And like for example, maybe 1.25, 1.25 debt service coverage ratio is healthy for multifamily. You can get away with that 6 to 6.5% debt yield, which is really what banks are looking for right now. So debt yield is crucial, and equity multiple is something we always look for our investors.
Yeah, great answer. I'm not even going to add to that because it was just a great.
I think my answer was longer than the question.
Yeah,
that thing was long.
Oh, our buddy Alex Reisner.
Where?
Ali. What is floor area ratio? So that's
Go
not
for
really
it, Dan.
that's just a straightforward question. So floor area ratio, for anyone who's ever heard of that, is the square footage divided by the parcel size. Floor area ratio. I don't know if you had another question that you want to ask to that, Alley Boy, but that's what it is. And you can probably just Google that real quick. Use the Google machine. Here we go. Here's our next question. We got.
He learned how to like ask us a question, but didn't learn how to Google.
Yeah.
All right, Jack from Colorado. This is for you, Daniel, son.
Yeah.
Me and my friends, not my friends, Jack and his friends are buying a property together. How can they increase their cash flow outside of raising rents? What say you?
Yeah, good question. And don't worry, I wasn't confused. I know you don't have friends, so I know Jack.
Hey, you're my only friend.
I think
that's not by choice.
That's what happens when you work, 90 hours a week. Jack, so one of the things you could do, and this is just kind of something, off the top of my head, if you want to increase the cash flow you're getting in, and I don't know what your hold period on this property is, but you could do a cost segregation analysis. And there's a lot of great guys here on LinkedIn that even talk about it. I know Yona Weiss is like the king of the cost segregation analysis. So I would even maybe recommend reaching out to him. But in a nutshell, what a cost segregation study does is it speeds up your depreciation. Now, on commercial assets, it's straight line 39 and a half years. When you get the cost seg study done, it breaks down the individual components of the property, interior, exterior. So, your roof, your carpets, your HVACs, all the components. It breaks it down, and they get their own individual depreciation schedule sped up. So they may say, the life of the roof is 10 years. And I think the buckets I think it's 5, 7, 10. I could be wrong. If anyone watching wants to kind of chime in, that's great. But I think it might be 5, 7, 10. And then everything just gets its own depreciation schedule. So you get the benefit of more depreciation in your early years. And naturally, the more depreciation you get, the more of a write-off you'll get against the income you receive, the less income taxes you will pay. So the more cash flow you'll get. So I would recommend getting a cost segregation analysis done. I think they're anywhere from, depending on who you work with, $5,000 to $10,000 maybe, somewhere in that realm of pricing. So depending on what kind of deal it is, it could definitely be worth it. And that's a great way to increase your cash flow.
I thought you were going to say something like minimize your expenses. Like a very straightforward answer. But
you could be more efficient. Yeah.
that was a very outside the box answer. That was good.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. Obviously, raising rents is one, but, it's not always warranted. But, depending on who you're buying the property from, if it's a mom and pop or more of a institutional group, you could potentially trim down some expenses or cut back on some things, be more energy efficient, LED lighting and all that kind of stuff. So utilities and things of that nature aren't crazy expensive. But that's what I would do, the cost segregation study. And I see him all over the place. I'm going to shout him out again. Reach out to Yona Weiss, because that guy is the cost seg king. I know he's all over the interwebs.
Everywhere. He's everywhere.
And tell him that we sent you. Maybe he'll cut us a little referral fee. I'm kidding, Yona. We don't need a referral fee. All right. Was that 4?
I think so.
I think that was 4.
I actually think it was 5 because Mr. Reisner.
I think it was 5 because our buddy Ali Reisner. So guys, just as a reminder, Progress Realty Partners, we are a private equity commercial real estate sponsor that allows accredited investors to own commercial real estate directly while being 100% passive. You get to rely on us to manage all the day-to-day maintenance, tenants, all the headaches that come up with ownership.
There's a lot of headaches.
And I got migraines out the wazoo. I'll be honest sometimes. But you sit back, you golf, you hang out with the wife, don't hang out with the wife, ignore the wife, whatever you want to do, whatever you like doing. Maybe go out and hike or something. Adam likes to bike. I like to be with my dog. So, everyone's got their thing. But check our website out, prp.us. We do have an active deal right now. So if you're interested in learning about it, it is in the great state of Texas. It is in the great market of Dallas-Fort Worth, which, by the way, #1 market in the country, #2 in our recent top 5, but it's debatable. So check it out. And if you need debt, if you're buying a property, there's also Progress Capital. That's headed up by Kathy Anderson. She's the queen of loans.
She was on last week.
Yeah, she was on last week. If you missed it, if you're not working with her, if you're not working with us, you're either losing money or not making enough money. So check out our websites, prp.us, progresscapital.com. But until then, again, my name is Dan Salonis.
I'm still Adam Dickert.
This was this week's What Say You? We'll catch you guys next week when we got 4 more questions and 4 more answers. But until then, we'll see you later.